What's up, guys? In this video we're going to be going over automation lanes and macros. So we have this little idea here, right? And we're going to liven it up with some nifty things. So we're going to look at our kind of percussion-y loop here, right? So I want to automate this. So let's add some crazy automation. So we're going to select a bandpass filter, and I want to automate, this filter moving about, and I want it to be stepped. So I will choose my favorite step, 16, and I'll press B from the little pencil tool when I have the cutoff selected. It's also here, and yeah, I'll automate this and we'll see what it sounds like. Alright, that's cool. So I want to go to, say, I guess another thing here. I'll use a ping pong delay, and I'll use a technique where I'll sync it to, I won't sync it, I'll have it set to free running. I'll have it very, very fast. So I'll notice that, that automation disappeared. Where'd it go? I have to kind of go back here and select it here. There's something called automation lanes. So you can use other automations and other channel or other automations to like have it as a reference. It's really interesting and useful. So you just click this little plus sign here when you have this selected, boom, and that automation is down there, and this is an automation lane. So I can then select our wet dry. All right, cool. So I will beef that around. What am I saying? Yeah, I'll move it around there. I'm double clicking on these little points just to move it around. I shouldn't really be going above 50%, but whatever. All right, cool. So I have that. Check that out. All right, so what I'll do is I'll just add that to another automation lane. So I have all these together, and I can go back to them at any point, and that way I won't have to be clicking through menus and doing all that stupid stuff. And what I'll do now is I'll just use some artificial sidechain. I have the compressor down here. I'll select the volume. I'll press B, and I'll hit a half a note, or I'll select that. A quarter of a bar, so that'd be an eighth. Yeah, it'd be an eighth. Select an eighth, and then I'll double click that so we get that pumping effect. Right, and what I'll do is I'll make that a little less intense, and I'll just compress the heck out of it. Right, and we'll see what that sounds like with the bulk of the track. Right, so we have like that kind of weird techno-y groove going on, and that's just with this automation and having lanes, and then we can go back and hold shift and move any of these up and down, or we can click and then add a point of data changing apparatusness, and that's all well and good. So what I want to do now is, let's say I want to make some interesting effects for everything except the kick, which we'll do. So what I'll do is I'll shift select these three tracks, and I will group them, and I'll give it a color. I like blue for those that get the reference. And yeah, I've effectively grouped a track, or I've grouped three tracks, and I'll just play it. Right, so what I want to do now is I want to make some interesting effects. So I'll add another ping pong delay, a reverb, and an EQ8. All right, so I want to get rid of all of these. I want to have a filter sweep. Oops, I'll select that. So I have my filter sweep. So I want, when like the track is going and I want it to kind of build up into a neat thing, I want to have a filter sweep. I want to have a delay line running, and I want some reverb, and I want to do this all at the same time. So what you can do is you can create a macro to do this, and what a macro does is it kind of groups things together. So we're going to group another thing. We're going to hold shift and select all these so they're all blue, right click, group, and now they're all grouped into their own kind of self-contained rack. And we'll click on this little kind of Ableton logo here, and we have our macros here. So what macros allow is is changing multiple values with one kind of knob, right? So you know how I want like my filter sweep and my ping pong delay and my reverb. We can do all that with one knob, and I'll show you how to do that now. So I want the frequency cutoff here, so I will right click, map to macro 1, and this effectively is mapped to macro 1. And moving macro 1 will move the cutoff frequency. And that's really useful. I can also map the wet dry of the ping pong delay, map that also to macro 1. So now I'm moving both at the same time. Super fun times. I can also map all of this. Oh, I can map the wet dry of the reverb to macro 1, and I can map the decay time to macro 1. So I have all these things being manipulated by one knob, and I have it here in front of me. It'll be mapped to your controller if you have one, and it's really useful for kind of getting complex effect ideas very easily done, like controlling it with one knob instead of automating like 4 values or more. It's just automating one value. Right, so I want to do another cool thing. I want the Q to rise as the filter sweep is going on, right? So I'll right click, map that to macro 1, but we have a problem here. It completely cuts off because the value goes to 0.10, right? And it does that. What the heck is that? So what we have to do is click on this little map button, and you get a little menu up here, and it's really fun. So for the EQ8 resonance, it was originally at 7.1, 0.7.1. I'll bring that up here. I'll hold control, or I could just type it in, but I don't want to look down. So I have this, and this sets the minimum and maximum value, or the starting value and the maximum value for the parameters that you have mapped. So now the cutoff resonance starts at 7.1, which it originally starts at, so you're not completely, squishing the lower frequencies as you do a filter sweep. But now, whoosh, it opens from that value. But maybe it's opening too much, right? Not too good. So we'll set the max value of our resonance to maybe, we'll just experiment. Not enough. We'll do that. Yeah, okay. And this is our max value. So it's a gradual kind of slope. And this is how you get, more of a refined mapping of all your macros and stuff. So, typically, as we're continuing, the wet dry of your ping pong delay and your reverb shouldn't really exceed 50%, right? So we will set the max value to 50, just for starters. And the max value of, max value of our decay time, not to 60 seconds, holy crap, set it to about 8, that's the max. And our wet dry to about 50 of our reverb wet dry. So now, when we open that all up, we'll get a nice kind of gradual thing. So, looking at that, the maximum value of the cutoff is a little bit too high. So I'll set this to max value, 127 down here, and maybe I'll want it about there. And maybe the resonance is a little too intense there, so I'll just change that. So let's give it a try. Nope, not enough. Let's bring that up a bit more. There, let's give it a try now. Right, and that's pretty fun, and we have that, and we'll unmap that. So, yeah, that's basically it. What you can do, which is also crazy, say if you have like another group that you really like, you can actually group upon group. So yeah, we'll put this in here, and we'll map this to macro 2. Right, so we have macro 1 and macro 2 controlling like another chain of processing within this. You can let's say, yeah, let's move this out of here. All right, so we'll have another kind of thing here. That will go ping pong delay and a redux. And we'll group that. So these are in their kind of own little group, and then we'll group this. Hopefully you work. You are not working. Yeah, that's how you do it. All right, so cool. So we're going to map this to macro 1. And this to macro 1. Right? So we have two kind of groups in here, and then we can group upon group. This gets kind of confusing. And we can map our macros to other macros. And we could control multiple groups with multiple macros. And of course, we can set the max value of our macro 1 and the max value of all these guys and the max value of all these guys and do some really interesting things. And you can get some insane effects if you could just keep on going and going, and you can fill up other macros, macro 1 through 8, and you can get some just absolutely insane effects. And yeah, assuming you can go on to infinity and have pure destruction. But yeah, anyway, I hope you learned stuff. The same thing for your macros. You can set up your own macro lanes for each macro. Let's go. Oh yeah, we have those all set. All right, yeah. You can set them, each macro, in their own little self-contained macro lane, and it's really useful for doing complex tracks, complex effects throughout your track. All right, I've rambled on enough. Hope you learned stuff, and take care.